When you picture a chess master, what comes to mind? For most of us, it's this image of a savant, right? Someone with a rare, almost mystical intelligence, a natural-born genius. It's a really intimidating idea, this notion that chess is just a test of raw, God-given talent. But what if I told you that whole powerful myth is completely wrong?
Now this quote here, it isn't from some old-school grandmaster or a famous psychologist. Our explainer today comes from the perspective of a chess engine, a silicon mind that crunches millions of moves a second. And from its purely logical point of view, the whole idea that you have to be born a genius to master chess, well, that's the biggest fiction of them all. Let's break down exactly why. All right, let's tackle the first big part of this myth, the whole concept of the superbrain. We imagine these masters just seeing the future, calculating dozens and dozens of moves ahead with perfect clarity. But the reality is actually way more interesting, and honestly, it's something that's much more achievable for the rest of us. See, this completely reframes the skill. It's not about having a more powerful processor in your head. It's all about running more efficient software. A grandmaster's brain doesn't waste energy on a million bad moves. Instead, it's been trained to instantly filter out the garbage and just focus on the handful of moves that actually matter. It's not raw power at all. It's refined, efficient perception.
So how in the world do they do that? Well, the secret is this awesome cognitive shortcut called chunking. See, instead of seeing 32 individual pieces on 64 separate squares, a master's brain groups all that chaos into meaningful patterns, or chunks. It dramatically cuts down on the mental heavy lifting and lets them have these seemingly instant intuitive insights.
Think about it like learning how to read. When you're just starting out, you sound out every single letter. L-E-T-T-E-R. It's slow, it's painful, but once you're fluent, you don't even see the letters anymore, do you? You see whole words, whole phrases, whole ideas, all at a glance. Chess is exactly the same. A master sees a king's Indian attack as one single concept, not just a random jumble of pieces.
Okay, so that's the superbrain myth. What about the IQ trap? This is the second huge one. The idea that if you're not some kind of math wizard, you've got no shot at being a chess wizard. But as it turns out, that connection, it's a lot weaker than people think. This classic quote from Grandmaster Richard Teichman just cuts right to the heart of it. Chess, at its core, isn't really about abstract, theoretical problem solving. It's about recognizing and executing very concrete tactical patterns, usually under pressure. It's a practical skill, not a theoretical one.
And thinking about it this way is a huge mental shift. If you see chess as some kind of complex math, it feels totally inaccessible, like you need a special kind of brain for it. But when you reframe it as a language, everything changes. Anyone can learn a new language if they just practice and immerse themselves in it. You learn the vocabulary, you learn the grammar, and pretty soon you start to think in it. You become fluent.
And these are the basic words of that language, the tactical patterns. For a master, seeing a fork on the board is as automatic and instant as you or I seeing the word apple. There's no deep calculation happening, it's just instant recognition, and that comes from practice. It's fluency. This brings us to our third and final myth, the photographic memory. We have this idea that great players have basically memorized entire encyclopedias of chess openings and moves. But this really confuses just memorizing things by rote with a kind of deep knowledge that actually wins you games.
So the whole thing boils down to the difference between what and why. Rote memorization is all about the what. What is the next move? But that's super brittle. The second your opponent plays a move you haven't memorized, you're totally lost. True mastery comes from understanding why a move is good, what strategic goals it's trying to achieve.
And this right here is the antidote to the memory myth. It's called structured understanding. When you understand the core principles of a position, things like controlling the center, developing your pieces, you can navigate it logically. You can often figure out the best move from scratch because you understand the story of the position, not just a memorized script.
Okay, so we've torn down the superbrain, we've sidestepped the IQ trap, and we've debunked the memory misconception. If those things aren't what make a chess master, then what is the real barrier that stops most people from getting good?
Well, it turns out the real barrier is the myth itself. It is a massive psychological trap. Because when we inevitably struggle, and look, everyone struggles when they're learning something hard, that myth gives us an easy out. We tell ourselves, oh, I'm just not a chess person, or a coding person, or a music person. We blame it on a lack of natural talent, when the real problem is just a lack of focused practice.
And this brings us right back to the cold, hard logic of the machine. For a chess engine, there is no such thing as talent or genius. It's a meaningless concept. There are only inputs: the study, the practice, the analysis. There is processing, recognizing the patterns and evaluating the positions. And there is output, finding the best move. It's a process, not a gift.
In the end, this isn't really just about chess. The game is just this perfect little laboratory for how we learn any complex skill, whether it's coding, playing an instrument, or learning a new language. The biggest thing holding you back is almost never a lack of talent. It's the self-defeating belief that you need it in the first place. So the question I want to leave you with is this: what genius myth is holding you back?